He's a legend, the GOAT greatest of all time. So why does everyone treat his name like a curse? We have to rewind the clock 100 years to a time when our hero was the laziest bum to ever walk the earth. His only ambition was to master the art of sleeping all day. That all changed when he stumbled into a cave and came face to face with the legendary martial sovereign. Our boy immediately recognizes the setup. This is the classic overpower main character event, the golden ticket to becoming insanely OP. But when he hears the training will take 30 years, with laziness running through his very bones, he slams on the brakes and gives a hard nope. He 100% refuses. So how does this ultimate slacker go on to become the all-powerful king of the beggars? Just kidding. Let's dive into the real story. In a remote temple tucked away in the mountains, a young historian was searching for answers about a legendary figure. The temple's master, a monk named Musan, sized him up and inquired about his interest in the warrior Wi Yeonho. The young man confirmed his mission, revealing he was documenting the history of this supposed great hero. With a sigh, the old master reminisced about the man known as the Radiant Martial Sovereign, describing him as a benevolent and just figure, practically a gift from the heavens. Pleased, the historian jotted it all down. But when he asked what the hero's daily life was like, the master hesitated. A flicker of doubt crossed his face as he recalled the man's actual habits, leaving the young man confused. Suddenly, the monk's expression shifted. He decided he just couldn't keep up the act anymore. The historian was completely thrown for a loop, baffled by the old master's abrupt change in attitude. Not long after, that same historian was unceremoniously chucked out onto the street. The clan's supreme elder, Ping Duke, furiously chewed him out because asking about Yeonho, demanding to know why such a despicable person would dare show his face there. The elder then ordered his men to throw salt to purify the ground where the historian stood, who could only look on in horror. He was trying to document the life of Wi Yeonho, a legend credited with single-handedly ending an era of chaos.
Many called him the GOAT, the most righteous warrior to ever live.
And yet, the historian was left running for his life, wondering why everyone dodged talking about this so-called hero. Feeling it was his duty to uncover the truth, he was determined to document every side of history, no matter the cost. Later, he stumbled upon an old beggar who just laughed at him for getting kicked out of all the other clans. The young man confirmed that everyone had the exact same reaction the moment he mentioned the name Wi Yeonho. The old man just grinned, saying their reaction was completely expected and frankly obvious. Confused, the historian asked why he was so certain. And so the beggar began to tell a story from 100 years ago at the Wi clan, revealing that Wi Yeonho was, in fact, the absolute worst person who had ever lived. At 12 years old, the young Wi Yeonho had a single goal: to become the greatest warrior under the heavens. Born into a martial clan, he was supposed to be honorable and just, but our guy knew there was a much faster path to the top. That path was relentless effort through endless training. Even for a genius like himself, he knew nothing would come without hard work. The only hitch? It was already too late in the day to start. As the young warrior watched the sun dip below the horizon, he seemed to be making a monumental decision about his grand destiny. Then, he dramatically flopped onto his bed, deciding it was a shame, but he'd get a good night's sleep and start fresh tomorrow. Just then, a figure approached, preparing to give him a rude awakening. An older man, the patriarch of the Wi clan, observed his son sleeping on the floor. After telling him to get up, got no response, the older man got fed up and delivered a swift kick to the kid's back. Yeonho woke up with a dopey grin and asked if the man had been there long. His father, Wi Jeonghan, asked if he had any idea what time it was. Our guy replied that since the sun was setting, it clearly wasn't time to train. At this, the patriarch went ballistic, demanding to know how long he'd been cooped up in his room. Yeonho guessed it had been 2, maybe 3 days. His father screamed that he'd been wrapped in a blanket like a useless lump for 4 days straight and asked if his back didn't hurt. The kid just smiled, explaining that he gets up every now and then, so there was no need to worry. He tried to justify himself, explaining with a laugh that every time he opened his eyes, The sun was already setting, and when the sun sets, it's obviously time to sleep so you can wake up early to train. That logic was the final straw. The patriarch lost it completely, sending the kid flying with a powerful kick and vowing to finally set his son straight. Later, in the Wei clan office, an exhausted Junghan was nursing a massive headache. His administrator, Zhou Bang, asked if he was worried about the second young master. The leader sighed that there was no other reason. In a moment of despair, the patriarch muttered that this was all his fault. The story revealed that Wei Junghan had left on a journey when Wi Yeonho was just 2. The matriarch, Han Sang-ah, was left to care for their sons, Wi Sanho and little Wi Yeonho. The trip, meant to last 2 years, stretched to 8, during which he earned the title of the righteous and chivalrous swordsman. But he felt the price for that glory was too high. When he finally got home, his once gentle wife had become fiercer than a tiger, and his beloved son had grown into a complete sloth. Back in the present, Zhou Bang comforted him, saying there must be a way out. The administrator then mentioned that Wi Sanho would be returning from the academy. A wicked smile spread across the patriarch's face. Turns out, there is one person Wi Yeonho is absolutely terrified of. At that very moment, the lazy kid felt a random shiver run down his spine. The source of that chill was Wi Sanho, his older brother, who asked how long he'd been sleeping. Startled, Yeonho got nervous and didn't know what to say. He panicked and blurted out that he'd trained that morning and was just taking a nap. His older brother challenged him to prove it by using a technique to split a candle flame in 2, wanting to see his improvement after 3 years away. Yeonho grabbed his sword and prepared for the challenge. Pressured by his brother, he hesitated, arguing it might be dangerous indoors, but Sanho told him to get on with it. The boy closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and then moved, enveloping his sword in blue energy. He planted his feet, spun, and unleashed the ascending dragon technique with all his might, only to realize something had gone horribly wrong. He broke out in a cold sweat as the candle flame remained perfectly intact. The test was a complete bust. Sanho stated that 3 years should have been enough time to master a basic technique, then kicked the candle over, saying his brother had somehow gotten even worse. Later that night, the family gathered for a dinner where the mood was incredibly tense. Yeonho was so nervous he felt sick. His father asked Sanho about the academy, and Sanho replied that hardships are part of training before stating there was one matter that needed to be addressed, an issue involving Yeonho. He then proposed that Wi Yeonho should be taken to his martial arts academy. The younger brother was utterly terrified by this idea, remembering it as the terrible place where he first manifested his dragon sword, a power he no longer possessed. Back then, a grand story was only just beginning, and no one could have imagined that this lazy kid would one day shake the entire world. And just like that, the boy was forced to go. His younger sister, Wi Suryeon, cried and begged him not to leave as the 2 brothers rode off. The journey was peaceful, but only for the older brother. Yeonho was completely wiped, practically draped over his horse. He complained that his entire body ached and asked if they were there yet. Sanho coldly replied that they still had a 10-day journey ahead, adding it would only take 5 if his younger brother actually knew how to ride a horse. Pointing to some people resting by a tree, Yeonho suggested they take a break, but his older brother sensed something was off. He dismounted to investigate, leaving Yeonho behind. Sanho approached the scene and coldly revealed that the people lying on the ground were, in fact, lifeless. The younger brother panicked. The older brother pointed to a flower-shaped mark on one of the bodies, identifying it as the indulgent flower palm technique used by a criminal named Seohua. Sanho explained the villain usually attacked women climbing the mountains, meaning one was likely in danger nearby. He told his brother to wait and then sped off to the rescue. Left alone with the bodies, Yeonho freaked out, yelling for his brother, who was already long gone. Once alone, his expression shifted to one of pure irritation as he grumbled to himself about what a liar his brother was. Suddenly, the horses began to neigh frantically. Remembering the bodies and the killer, Yeonho realized he was in a very tight spot. Time passed, and the sky darkened rapidly. He started to worry as his brother was taking too long, and the howls of wild beasts echoed through the mountains. Realizing he couldn't just stand there and become tiger food, he was startled by a bolt of lightning. Then, a single drop of rain landed on a leaf, and the downpour began. A heavy rain poured down, soaking the boy and the horses. Alone and terrified, Yeonho looked up at the sky, realizing his situation had just gone from bad to worse. A desperate scream echoed through the mountain as he cursed his awful luck. Deciding he had to do something, he guided the horse carrying one of the bodies with great difficulty. He couldn't just leave them behind, but the downpour made burial impossible. His only option was to find shelter, so he pulled the animals onward with all his might. A moment later, the terrified horse started neighing non-stop. As Yeonho yelled at it to obey, he noticed the path was way too slippery. Suddenly, a massive bolt of lightning struck the ground, sending both boy and horse flying as he tumbled hard down a muddy hill. His fall was finally cushioned by a large pile of leaves. For a moment, he just lay there, aching all over and too weak to move. As he sat up, complaining about the pain and cursing the horse, he stopped grumbling and realized his fall had led him straight to the entrance of a cave. A huge grin spread across his face as he shouted with joy at finding shelter. He turned to see that both horses were there, safe and sound. He quickly grabbed their ropes, determined not to lose them again, and guided them into their new refuge. Looking at his messy hands, he lamented that he'd much rather be at home. He left a piece of cloth at the cave entrance so his brother could find him. Then, tired of it all, he threw himself onto the ground and was completely passed out in no time. Even in his sleep, his mind worried about his brother's safety, but he calmed himself by remembering that his relative was a very strong man who would surely be back for him soon. As our MC snored on the cold floor, night fell and darkness took over. A strange blue light began to glow over his body, enveloping him completely until he started to levitate. He continued to sleep as he floated upward like a feather before being shot like an arrow into the depths of the cave. The mysterious force carried him into a deeper chamber, where he gently landed on a stone floor before the blue light vanished. Sometime later, Yeonho finally woke up to see a strange ceiling covered in a green mist, completely confused about where he was. He realized he was in a much deeper part of the same cave when a powerful voice echoed, calling him the destined human. Startled, he threw himself backward, terrified by the otherworldly voice. It told him he was in the place of destiny, and that he was the successor of the radiant sword. The boy pointed to a glowing sphere and asked if that's what he was talking to. The entity confirmed this, explaining that it had transcended its physical body and now spoke from beyond time. It ordered him to accept its will, but our MC panicked, screaming that it was a ghost. The consciousness tried to calm him down, revealing that it had already passed on and had prepared this place for its successor. Suddenly, the young man's fear vanished as the situation felt oddly familiar. He considered the elements: a cave, the will of an old master, and incredible power left behind. Putting the pieces together, his expression changed as he realized this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, just like in the stories he'd heard. He burst out laughing, thinking the heavens were rewarding him with a massive power-up without him even having to train. He accepted on the spot when the voice said he must inherit the sword. Then the entity revealed the catch. He had to train hard in that place for 30 years. The lazy boy was in total shock, his face dropping at the mention of 3 decades of training. With a fake smile, he said this destiny wasn't for him and suggested it find someone else. The blue consciousness fell silent for a moment before the sphere of energy exploded with rage, screaming in disbelief. But Yeonho just laughed, saying he'd rather leave than be stuck there for so long, and bolted for the exit. The voice shouted for him to wait. A spirit of an old man appeared, whose name was revealed to be Baek Muhan. Yeonho stared suspiciously, then pointed and yelled that he was right all along and that this was a scam. The spirit became furious at the accusation, but Yeonho was convinced he was being tricked. To test his theory, he lunged forward and tried to land a punch, but his hand passed right through the apparition's face. His face changed to one of pure terror as he screamed in panic, finally understanding it was a real ghost. The scene then cut to the present day, with the old narrator revealing to the young listener that this was exactly how Yeonho met his master. The listener was surprised and asked if a technique like spiritual transmission actually existed. The storyteller confirmed it was a power reserved for the highest-level martial artists. When the listener asked if he knew anyone who could use it, the old master stared at him with a piercing gaze and asked if he'd ever heard of the Sword Emperor. The narrator revealed that he was Baekmuhan, the Radiant Sword, the greatest name in the Baek clan, and the master of the Radiant Martial Sovereign. Shocked, the listener questioned how this was possible since Baekmuhan lived 300 years ago. The old man confirmed he was from a forgotten era, but had trained Wi Yeonho. The historian assumed Wi Yeonho must have begged to be his disciple, but the narrator smiled and revealed it was actually the other way around. The scene flashed back to the past, with the spirit of Baekmuhan desperate to find an heir. He begged the boy, but Wi Yeonho turned his back, rejecting the offer because he wasn't from the Baek clan. Enraged, the master unleashed his energy, sealing the cave entrance with a massive boulder. He cackled, saying the stone gate was impossible to break unless Yeonho learned his martial arts. Instead of despairing, our MC pulled out a tool and started digging, bluntly stating that with a piece of metal he could wear down the rock and be out in a year, maybe 2. The master was in disbelief at his stubbornness. Yeonho found it funny, saying this was rich coming from someone who wanted to train him for 30 years, making the spirit furious that he couldn't just punch him. Desperate, the old man offered to let him out after 20 years, but Yeonho refused. He countered with a proposal of 3 years. At this, the master freaked out at the boy's audacity, saying not even the greatest masters in history could pull that off. Yeonho shrugged and went back to scraping the rock. "Feel defeated," Baekmuhan shouted a new proposal. 5 years. He promised that in just 5 years, he would make him the strongest in the world. The boy considered the new deal, realizing the spirit's power was the real deal. He finally accepted, saying 5 years was a cheap price to become a master, and with a confident smile, agreed to give it a shot. Soon it revealed that the Sword Emperor had some seriously bad luck, finding a disciple as lazy as that kid. The next morning the Emperor freaked out, yelling for the young man to wake up. Yeonho complained that as a human, he needed his sleep. The master lost it, screaming that at this rate, it would take 50 years, not 5, while Yeonho rolled on the floor laughing at his despair. Suddenly, he asked how the spirit closed the gate without hands. Baekmuhan explained he used his chi to levitate a rope, which gave him an epiphany. If he could move rocks, he could do much more. He created several spheres of energy, and as the boy begged him to calm down, the attacks hit him head-on. After that day, the brutal training continued day and night. During the day, he learned swordsmanship. At night, he trained in his sleep via the mythic arts of the dream. For the Sword Emperor, living and training were the same. The seasons passed and Yeonho's life was reduced to wielding his sword with not a single second to rest. 5 long years of hellish training passed in the blink of an eye. The day he was ready to leave, he approached the gigantic stone door and pushed it open effortlessly. Back into the day before, with the master calling his disciple for a serious conversation. Yeonho got scared, but his master explained that he had dedicated his entire life to martial arts, isolating himself from everyone and becoming a grumpy old man avoided by his own clan. He had abandoned his children for his ambition, thinking the pinnacle of the sword would give him everything. But in his final moments, he discovered he was wrong. A sword is meaningless if you have no one to protect. The spirit said it was Yeonho who helped him understand this, and that teaching his only apprentice brought him immense joy and taught him about affection. Our MC noticed the farewell tone, and the Sword Emperor confirmed that the time for his departure had come. The boy panicked, saying their deal was for 30 years, but the spirit revealed that his energy, which had been used to keep his apprentice alive without food, had run out. Yeonho was shocked and asked why he hadn't warned him, but the old man just smiled. He gave his final advice: see the world, keep it within himself, and see the people before the world to avoid his mistakes. He assured Yeonho that even if forgotten, his essence would live on in his disciple's swordsmanship. The apprentice despaired, yelling that he still had so much to learn and pleading for the spirit to stay one more day. But the old man vanished into thin air with one last request for his only disciple to be happy. Alone in the darkness, the boy called out his master's name, but only the echo of his own voice answered. Our boy wept with a mixture of anger and sadness, complaining that the old man could have at least given him a little heads up. The scene returned to the present, where he now understood why his tutor had left without warning. He recalled finding his clothes covered in writing and called the warrior a crazy old man. It turned out that before vanishing, the Sword Emperor, Baekmuhan, had left a message on his clothes explaining that since his martial art was incomplete, the master had left a gift in his body. The elixir Yeonho had swallowed would cause his techniques to evolve on their own to make up for the lost time. The catch was that the elixir's evolution was faster than his training. While he could just relax and do nothing, the elixir's energy would eventually overload his body, and he would meet his end. In short, if he was lazy, his fate was sealed. He cursed his master, who had advised him to travel the world and become a great person, but had instead trapped him. His first mission was to go to Rulan and find the world's greatest scholar. Annoyed, he decided he would only go home after taking care of everything his master had laid out for him. With a determined look, he began an intense training regimen to strengthen his body for the trip, irritated that his master would still be bothering him even after he was gone. Finally leaving the cave that had been his home for 5 years. Just then, the spirit of the Sword Emperor appeared at the cave entrance with a malevolent laugh, clearly amused by his disciple's situation. The spirit yelled that if the young man didn't see the world, he'd dry up and perish, calling him a little rascal and saying it would be a huge waste of his skills to stay isolated. The master added that he had been happy thanks to his disciple, and wished for him to be happy too. After a long journey, Yeonho finally arrived in the huge city of Kaifeng. His clothes were completely torn and his feet were bandaged and dirty. Looking exhausted, he spotted a man and asked for information. The man, the leader of the beggars named Jang Il, looked him up and down and asked who this mummy was. When Yeonho asked for information, Jang Il immediately started talking about payment. Thinking the young man's voice sounded young but his face looked ancient, Jang Il said they were both beggars and invited him for a chat. Yeonho got irritated and yelled that he wasn't a beggar, but Jang Il completely disagreed, telling him that with his appearance, he could make a lot of money. Suddenly, he grabbed the warrior's wrist and suggested they work together. Using Yeonho's miserable appearance, they made a mountain of coins in the blink of an eye. After getting paid, Jang Il asked what he wanted to know. Yeonho requested an enormous amount of information, asking for lists of locations and hobbies of famous scholars and blacksmiths. Shocked, Jang Il promised the information in 7 days. Since Yeonho had nowhere else to go, the beggar chief let him stay. Days later, a desperate beggar came running, yelling that their sect was in big trouble and that they were all going to starve. It turned out other beggars were being kicked out because rich patrons said they should at least look as miserable as Yeonho, who had inadvertently become the king of the beggars. Back at the hideout, Yeonho stretched and said he was thirsty. Jang Il exploded and told him to get his own water, but Yeonho didn't even move, instead complaining that the water bowl was dirty and demanding a new one, filled with cold water from the mountains. While the fake beggar relaxed, Jang Il was twisting in pure rage. He, a branch leader, now had to serve an annoying, spoiled brat but couldn't kick him out because without the money he brought in, his men would starve. Just then, a beggar came running with the requested information. Overjoyed, the branch leader took the paper, but the fake beggar just lay there with a look of relief. After taking the paper, Yeonho's expression showed he wasn't happy, asking if that was all there was. The beggar leader was confused by his reaction and took the paper himself, only to realize it was only half the information he'd asked for. Panicking before the boy could leave, he grabbed Yeonho's arm and dragged him through the street, promising he'd get the information he so desperately wanted. He took him to a new place where a mysterious woman provocatively greeted them, calling Jang Il Fox Dog. She was Gui Nyang Nyang, the Kaifeng branch leader of the Hao clan. While Jang Il greeted her respectfully, Yeonho was confused and mockingly whispered the nickname, making Jang Il furious. Gui Nyang Nyang found it strange that the leader of a rival sect would come to her for simple information. Jang Il explained he wasn't there for the beggar sect, but had brought her a new client. She grew suspicious and then angry, thinking it was a provocation and stating that she didn't sell information to the beggar sect. Yeonho poked Jang Il's cheek and said he wasn't from the beggar sect. Not intimidated, he then asked if the Hao clan wasn't a professional intelligence organization, accusing them of not having the basics down if they didn't even know who he was. The provocation worked. The woman flashed a sinister smile, her patience gone. She called out for her subordinate, Gong Mu, who confirmed that the young warrior was not from the beggar sect. Gui Nyang Nyang was speechless, her face turning red with irritation. When Yeonho asked if she could sell him the information now, she cracked a terrifying smile, said she didn't want to, and told them to get out. Unfazed, Yeonho let out a mocking laugh, accusing her of having no business sense. As she turned to leave, he provoked her one last time by calling her an old lady, and she exploded with fury, screaming for Gongmu to teach him a lesson. The subordinate lunged forward with a super-fast attack, but Wi Yeonho didn't even flinch. He stopped the blow with ease, grabbed his face, and told him to get lost as he released a blue energy that sent him flying. Everyone was in shock, unable to believe the boy's power. Jang Il was completely speechless, and Yeonho himself seemed a bit surprised by his own strength, claiming it was just instinct. The sect leader, Gui Nyang, changed her tone, acknowledging he was an important client but coldly stating that he didn't seem to have good intentions. Jang Il says that she probably won't believe him, but he really has not come here to fight. There was just information that their sect could not obtain, so he came here to ask for help. She asks if he's serious, and he says yes, as Yeonho is dragging Gong's corpse. She says that this is akin to bringing a tiger over to a rabbit's den and asking for some fur. This was different matter, so she demanded compensation for her injured warrior, citing the rule of their world, blood for blood. Suddenly, 4 assassins leaped from the shadows, surrounding the pair. Yeonho scoffed, commenting that everyone in that place loved to make a dramatic entrance. The assassins said the customs of the murim followed the law of an eye for an eye. Our boy scoffed that it sounded like something a loan shark would say. One of the goons said they were just going to take a piece of flesh from his face. Yeonho held up a hand, saying he had to spoil their plans. He pinched his own cheek, explaining there was no fat there since he hadn't been eating well. This was the last straw. The sect leader trembled with pure rage and screamed for her warriors to eliminate the insolent boy. Relaxed with one of his hand in the head, Yeonho knew that their plan had changed quickly from taking a piece of his face, turning to extermination. The goons attacked all at once, but he dodged and blocked every move with absurd speed. His clothes ripped in the middle of the fight, revealing a physique completely different from his scrawny appearance. The sect leader couldn't believe her eyes. In the blink of an eye, he had defeated all 4 warriors and told them to stay put, a powerful aura exploding around him as he warned them that he didn't want to get rid of anyone.
Both Jang Il and Nyang were, of course, completely stunned by the power Yeonho had just shown. Yeonho muttered to himself that he would never regret attacking those who had attacked him first, just as his master had taught him. Nyang girl quickly realized she was messing with the wrong person and couldn't afford a single misstep that might annihilate the entire Hao clan. Switching gears, she once again confirmed what Yeonho wanted. His answer was still information. Jang Il then showed her the document she needed to complete. She looked a bit confused while reading it, but then agreed to gather the information within a single day. However, before she left, she gave Jang Il an irritated look and told him to follow her to her room. As time passed, Yeonho started laughing at Jang Il's face, which had been beaten up so badly it now resembled a steamed bun. Jang Il muttered that the girl was the daughter of the Hao clan's leader and would soon inherit the position, so it was no surprise that she was incredibly strong and he couldn't handle her. While he was grumbling, she suddenly popped up behind him and confirmed that she was already done with the information gathering. In the counseling room, she explained that she had one condition for the task, an information fee of 5 nyang. Yeonho spontaneously offered 5 of his copper coins. Jang Il had to correct him, confirming that the payment had to be in silver, not copper. Wi Yeonho yelled that the fee was way too expensive, but it turned out the info contained secret details, hence the high price. Yeonho then stood up, ready to leave and go make some money. In a panic, Jang Il grabbed his leg, telling the bastard not to be so hasty. After using up all his own fortune plus the sect's slush fund, Jang Il began to cry as he held out the silver nyang. Yeonho praised the quality of the information, noting it was clearly in a different class. Jang Il got angry at what he thought was mockery, questioning if this was all they got for such an expensive price. Wi Yeonho then continued with business, stating he wanted to send a letter to his hometown in Guangdong. Nyang girl said it would be expensive, but the fee could be replaced if he just answered a few questions. She began by asking for his real name, which was Yeonho, and his age, which was 17. Jang Il was surprised to learn that Yeonho was so much younger than him. Nyang was also shocked, because Yeonho had already become incredibly strong at such a young age. She then started thinking about where she had heard his familiar name before. Then she remembered Wi Yeonho was the second son of the noble Wi family from Guangdong. Yeonho was surprised that she knew who he was. Lady Nyang Nyang explained that she knew because his family had been looking for him ever since he went missing about 5 years ago. Jang Il was shocked again, finally realizing that Yeonho was the younger brother of Sanho. Of course, Jang Il knew him because Sanho was his friend.
It was then confirmed that the letter would arrive in 10 days. Before he left, Nyang Nyang gave Yeonho a red handkerchief, explaining that it was an exclusive item for their VIPs. It was free of charge and held the privilege of summoning any Hao clan agent wherever he was staying. Nyang Nyang girl realized this was a great investment to build a good relationship with such a powerful person. As a gift, she offered to provide his next piece of intel for free, revealing her true intent was to ensure there was no damage to their relationship. While Yeonho just laughed and said that nothing big had happened, Jung Il was still silently cursing him for draining all of his money. Outside, Jung Il was still sad about his empty pockets. Yeonho told him that a beggar shouldn't be greedy for money and should just focus on his duty as a leader. Jung Il exploded in silent fury, but figured that at least this was goodbye, since Yeonho had finished his business in Kaifeng. However, Yeonho stopped him from leaving, announcing with a proud and bright face that he had forgotten one more problem. He had no money. Jung Il's face went completely goofy with despair. From the Hao clan hall, Nyang Nyang looked on from afar and called for her subordinate Gong Mu. She ordered him to send word to the main clan, explaining that the missing second son of the Wi family had returned as a full-fledged martial arts master. The story then continued with Yeonho arriving in Songlin, precisely in front of the Hanlin Great Academy. A man was sitting while holding his tea. He was one of the 3 great masters, a man named Mun Yuhuan. His daughter, Mun Unji, called for him, explaining that there was a guest who wanted to meet him. Yuan said he had no appointments, but his daughter clarified that the guest had only come to play Go. With a bright face, Yuan confirmed the guest's purpose. His daughter then brought the guest in, and Wi Yeonho greeted the master, apologizing for the sudden visit. Yu Huan said it was no problem at all, believing that anyone who came to play Go was simply drawn by the elegance of a scholar. As Yeonho sat down, he confirmed that playing Go was the only thing he knew. The match was set to begin, with Yu Huan taking the white side and Yeonho taking black. As they started, Yu Huan didn't expect much skill from the person who looked like a beggar, assuming he was probably just playing to get some food from him. Then, Yeonho began strongly with the black pieces. Yu Huan was a bit surprised, muttering to himself that maybe this kid wasn't a beginner after all. As they played on, he began to think seriously, realizing he couldn't underestimate his opponent despite his young age. As the sound of the intense game filled the room, Yu Huan started to look desperate, a tremor running through his hands. With sweat drenching his face, he realized that this wasn't even the level of a quick play. This boy was the real deal. With his hand on his chin, Yeonho then began to provoke his opponent, asking when he was going to make a move. He taunted him, joking that maybe he was taking so long because he hadn't subscribed to 0 manhua during this time. After the intense game of Go, Yuan was amazed by Yeonho's unique playstyle, describing it as chaotic as angry ocean waves. He noted that the boy played like a war demon, crazed for battle and charging at the slightest opening like a starving beast. When he complimented the young man, Yeonho just thanked him, chalking it up to the torment he endured from his very strict old master. He then asked if he could stay for a while, as his master had told him to remain in Rulin. Hearing that he was following a master's teachings, Yuan happily agreed, telling his daughter, Unji, to prepare a room, clothes, and a bath for their guest. Though Unji reluctantly agreed, Yeonho admitted he had no money. The old master just laughed, saying he wouldn't dream of charging a guest like him, and that, in return, all he asked was for Yeonho to occasionally play Go against him or his other guests. Later, while bathing, Yeonho was so overwhelmed by the simple comfort that he was almost moved to tears, blaming his damned old master for his past hardships. Meanwhile, Unji waited outside, completely baffled as to why her father would accept such a person. Her thoughts were interrupted when Yeonho emerged from the bath completely naked, startling her. After she screamed at him to cover up, he cheekily complied, but seeing him cleaned up, she was so taken aback that she dramatically asked who he even was. A few days later, Unji complained to her father about their new guest. She was irritated that Yeonho did nothing but sleep all day if he wasn't eating, and she reminded her father of his own teachings about slothfulness being a sin. Yuan, however, was unfazed. He explained that a person's true nature is revealed through Go, and Yeonho's rushed and rough play style proved he was anything but lazy. He reasoned that the boy must have lived an incredibly hard life, and if he was resting now, it was because he desperately needed it. He told his daughter not to chase away a bird seeking shelter from the rain. Unable to argue, Unji left, but seeing Yeonho sleeping lazily in a mess bedroom made her boil with anger. Convinced her father had been deceived, she decided to kick the lazy bum out herself. She furiously woke him up, but he just sleepily asked to be notified when the sun set. She went ballistic, screaming that everyone else in the academy studied while he did nothing. With a smug look, Yeonho replied that they were studying because they wanted to, and he was sleeping because he wanted to, asking what the problem was. She shot back that she couldn't stand watching him laze around, that they weren't well off enough to feed someone who contributed nothing, and that she was the one in charge of the money, not her father. Giving in with a sigh, Yeonho asked what he should do. Unji's solution was laundry a massive pile of it. She sneakily told him good luck, thinking he wouldn't be able to finish it in a day. 2 hours later, she was shocked to find all the laundry perfectly clean and shining, with Yeonho sleeping soundly on the side. Frustrated, she then assigned him the task of chopping a huge pile of logs, giving him a week and thinking he'd surely run away after a day. She returned shortly after to find all the logs neatly chopped and, once again, Yeonho asleep on top of them. She was dumbstruck, realizing a task that should have taken 10 men 10 days was done in no time. The same thing happened with dishwashing and gardening. Every task was completed perfectly, and every time, she found him fast asleep afterward, leaving her furious and confused at how he could be so capable. The scene then returned to the mad dog narrator. He claimed that disaster followed Yeonho wherever he went, and the once peaceful Scholar Hall was soon swept into chaos, all because of the game of Go. An irritated Yeonho found himself swamped with challengers after Yuhwan, believing a stagnant stone rots, sent letters to scholars all across the land, inviting them to face the new Go master at his institute. Day after day, a huge crowd lined up to play, and Yeonho indifferently defeated them one by one. His moves so unorthodox that one scholar has completely defeated in an instant. The Saint of Go has appeared. While playing Go, a scholar was baffled by Yeonho's suicidal move, wondering if it was a mistake. He quickly dismissed the thought, believing the undefeated genius must have a trap in mind, so he cautiously avoided it. Internally, however, a very irritated Yeonho was shaking with frustration, wondering why his opponent had backed off. He was trying to lose so he could finally stop playing, but every time he made a deliberately bad move to throw the game, his opponents would overthink it, assume it was a brilliant gambit, and respectfully forfeit. While crying on the inside, Yeonho had to graciously accept another win. Exhausted, he started walking back to his room, thinking he would rather be doing laundry at this point. His plan to lose was backfiring spectacularly, only drawing more challengers. His thoughts were interrupted when he overheard a disgusting-looking man named Nok Mokpung threatening Unji. Mokpung told her she would regret refusing his marriage proposal, claiming he always gets what he wants and that her next refusal wouldn't be a simple offer. He even threatened to bring down the entire Hanlim Institute just because of her. Furious, Unji told him to do as he wished, screaming that she hated him and would never marry him. As she tried to leave, Mokpung grabbed her hand tightly, disgustingly suggesting she wouldn't be so bold if he decided to take her right then and there. Terrified, Eunji was saved when Yeonho suddenly appeared from behind, telling Mokpong that wasn't something he should be saying in someone else's house. Surprised, Eunji ran to his side. Yeonho noticed the scratch marks on her hand, borrowed one of her hairbands to tie up his hair, and then confronted Mokpong. When Mokpong accused him of rudely listening in, Yeonho shot back that a guy who manhandles women shouldn't be the one talking about manners. Mokpong tried to introduce himself, but Yeonho cut him off, saying he didn't care who he was. Angered, Mokpong told the genius of Hanlim to stick to go, but Yeonho coolly replied that he was actually really good at getting in people's way. Before the situation could escalate, other scholars appeared, asking Yeonho for a game the next day. Seeing the crowd, Mokpong retreated, but not before warning Eunji that if she didn't come running to him in 3 days, he would do things his own way. After the fat pig left, Yeonho asked who he was. Eunji explained that Mokpong was the adopted son of a powerful imperial palace attendant. Yeonho think he is a decent guy, and why Eunji refuse? That statement makes Eunji explode. Mokpong didn't want to marry her for love, but to use her and her father's extensive network to gain influence. She revealed that the eunuchs in the palace were wary of her father, Yuhuan, because the Hanlim Institute was an independent power with deep connections. If Yuhuan ever decided to enter politics and unite the forces of Rulan, the corrupt eunuchs would be in grave danger. Mokpong's marriage to her was a scheme to neutralize that threat. Meanwhile, Mokpong was kneeling before his adoptive father, the head of the eunuchs, Noki. He explained that the plan was stalled because the genius of Hanlim had drawn so many people to the institute that there were too many eyes watching for him to act boldly. Noki, however, was not pleased. He reminded his son that this mission to take over the imperial palace came from the one and only, and failure was not an option. With a creepy smile, he told Mokpong that violence was sometimes necessary and ordered him to use the crowd to his advantage, get rid of all witnesses, and kill everyone, including the genius of Hanlim. On the next day, the emperor's younger brother, a man named Li Wang, who is also the chief of the Aos Sedai, is trying to convince Yuan to take an official government position. He warns that a powerful figure named Nokji is making some sketchy moves, shaking up the military and scholars and causing signs of disloyalty to pop up everywhere. Li Wang suspects Nokji isn't acting alone. His rise to power has been suspiciously convenient, with all his rivals having accidents or dying from sudden illnesses. He believes someone else is pulling the strings, propping Nokji up for a rebellion. He desperately needs Yuhuan to unite the scholars to oppose them, but Yuhuan just says he'll think about it. Changing the subject, Li Wang asks about the so-called talent that Yuhuan has been bragging about. Yuhuan lights up, calling him an extraordinary person who seems to be trying to hide his true self. Just then, Eunji arrives with the man himself, our main character, Yeonho. Eunji had woken him up early. Then Yeonho, in sarcastic way, cheekily complains that it's a shame no one threw cold water on his face, otherwise he could have slept even longer. Yuan introduces him to Li Wang, who says he just wants to play a game of Go. But Yeonho, with innocent expression, shut him down flat, telling the emperor's brother that he has to follow the rules and wait his turn like everyone else who came before him. When Li Wang offers to just ask the others to let him cut, Yeonho calls him out, saying that's not a solution, it's just coercion, and that he has his own principles to uphold. Li Wang and Yuhuan are left speechless with his statement, finding the situation troublesome. Seeing the stalemate, Eunji steps in like a boss tell her father she will do the negotiation. She makes Yeonho a deal he can't refuse. If he plays this one game against Li Wang, she'll cancel all of his other scheduled Go games for the day. Tempted by the offer of a day off, Yeonho tries to act like he's sticking to his principles, but Eunji tells him to cut the act and decide now, as there would be no more negotiations. Defeated, Yeonho agrees and ready to play. In his mind, Li Wang complaining that this is the worst as Yeonho may be just all talk, but he is vowing to see it through to the end as he starts to begin his move. After the game, Li Wang is completely unimpressed. He privately observes that Yeonho's playing style was ferocious, like something you wouldn't see even on a battlefield, making him curious about the kind of life Yeonho has led. However, This intensity doesn't match the lazy, scrawny appearance Yeonho projects, and Lee Wang begins to doubt that this is the talent he's looking for. Lee Wang admits he can't understand why Yuhwan holds the boy in such high regard. Yuhwan explains that he saw something truly special. During the game, there was a single moment when Yuhwan made a divine move that he believed would make him win the game. In that instant, however, he saw a look of pure selflessness on Yeonho's face, an expression that only a person who has become completely one with their craft can display. Still unconvinced and preoccupied with the political situation, Lee Wang departs. As night falls, the Hanlim Institute is suddenly swarmed by assassins. An ambush is underway, led by the despicable Mukpung, who screams at his men to capture everyone and ensure that not even a single rat gets out alive. Meanwhile, Yeonho remains fast asleep, completely unaware to the chaos erupting outside. Mukpung is on his villain arc, 8, still salty about Eunji's past attitude. He is dead set on making her pay today. Moments later, his masked crew rolls in and arrests everyone on sight. Seeing this chaos, Yuhwan immediately confronts Mukpung, wanting to know what the hell is going on. Mukpung plays it super cool, saying they got an anonymous tip about some suspicious activities. He points out that a lot of VIPs have been rolling through this academy, and when Yuhwan asks, "What's shady about that?" Mukpung hits them with his Uno reverse card. He asks what other reason there could be for so many powerful people to meet up in secret. Then he drops the T-word, treason. Yuhwan calls complete cap on the whole thing, insisting they were just there to play Go. But Mukpung is not buying it for a second. He scoffs at the idea that all these big shots would link up for a board game. Yuhwan doubles down, even mentioning the Halim master of Go, but Mukpung just says rumors are cheap. He scans the crowd, looking for the Go master, but an attacker confirms he's not there. Mukpung figures the guy must have dipped early, then turns to the prisoners, totally gaslighting them with a fake-ass promise that they'll be let go if they're innocent. Right on cue, an attacker comes out holding a book called The Collective Oath. Mukpung presents it like it's the smoking gun, the ultimate proof of a treasonous plot. He claims it's a secret pact, and the reveal leaves Yuhwan and the others completely floored. Yuhwan, in total disbelief, says he's never even heard of it, but Mukpung shoves the book in his face, asking if he's still going to deny it. That's when it all clicks for Yuhwan. It's giving setup. They've been framed big time, pleading their innocence until one man stands up. It's Prince Lee Wang, the emperor's younger brother. Seeing the prince, Mukpung is visibly shocked for a second. The other prisoners get a sudden rush of hope, thinking, "We are so back." They believe since royalty is a witness, they're saved. But Lee Wang isn't having any of it. He tells Mukpung he's not about to be tied up and orders him to cut him loose, like right now. Mukpung pretends to agree, but then flips the script. Big time. He accuses Prince Lee Wang directly of masterminding the whole treason plot. Lee Wang is stunned, but Mukpung just laughs, revealing he knew the prince was there the whole time. When Lee Wang goes nuclear, 2 goons take him down, forcing him to his knees. Mukpung lays out his narrative. A plot this big needs a main character, and he basically crowns Lee Wang as the mastermind. Lee Wang is seeing red, screaming that Mukpung is delusional, but Mukpung shuts him down. He tells him straight up, "You're never seeing the emperor again, because the punishment for treason is immediate execution." He's cooked up an airtight story with the collective oath and a prince at the scene. The optics are terrible and Mukpung knows it. Defeated, Lee Wang can only scream curses at him. Mukpung laughs it off and turns his attention to Eunji, telling her she's first on the chopping block. He gets in her face, saying this is what she gets for leaving him on read. Now everyone pays the price. In a show of pure defiance, Eunji spits in his face. In response, Mukpung does the most unhinged thing imaginable and licks it off, promising to make her wish for death instead of granting it. When she says she'd rather die, he goes full villain and blackmails her. He threatens to make her father and their entire family line, all 9 generations, suffer if she harms herself. He grabs her by the hair, laughing like a maniac, as her father, Yuhwan, watches helplessly. As Mukpung leans in to begin his torture, Eunji prays for a hero. And what she sees next is just, wow. Up on the roof is Yeonho, with his bags packed, literally ready to leave. Eunji screams his name and he just gives an awkward laugh. When she asks what he's doing, he shouts back, "I'm leaving!" with zero shame in his game. Eunji is speechless. She tells him to help, but he's like, "Help who? I'm in survival mode right now." He says if he tries to flex with his mediocre skills, he'll be unalived instantly. And that minding his own business is the vibe. He even waves at Mokpung and tells him to carry on. The disrespect is real. Eunji is heartbroken. Li Wang and Yuhuan calls him the most shit person they ever seen. Mokpung finally snaps and tells Yeonho to stop, warning him that the entire empire will hunt him down as an accomplice. Yeonho's unbothered vibe is next level. He basically says, "Yeah, just find me later," and turns to leave. This pushes Mokpung over the edge, and he orders an attacker to catch him. Seeing this, Eunji yells for Yeonho to run. Hearing her, he stops and smirks. He tells her she's giving him mixed signals. First, help me, now run. What's a guy to do? As the attacker lunges, Yeonho dodges. The guy whiffs completely, hitting nothing but an afterimage. Yeonho is already behind him and, with lightning speed, one-shots him with an elbow strike. The attacker goes down hard, crashing right through the roof. Yeonho stands over the wreckage, looks at Eunji, and just shakes his head. For real, what a strange woman. And on that legendary takedown, the chapter ends. The entire courtyard is shook. Eunji and the other scholars are staring with their jaws on the floor. And even Mokpung is low-key impressed, finally admitting that Yeonho actually has some skills. With some serious main character energy, Yeonho just grins and thanks him for the compliment. This, of course, makes Mokpung see red, and he claps back that it was not praise. Having a full-on meltdown, Mokpung turns to his top assassin, the masked dude Hyukil, and asks how much more of this disrespect he's supposed to take. He sicks Hyukil on Yeonho, but with one condition: don't kill him. Mokpung says taking out Yeonho is something he wants to do personally. Hyukil steps up, ready for a serious showdown. But Yeonho hits him with the most legendary request ever, asking him to hit the pause button for a sec, so he can go grab his sword from his room. Hyukil is not having it, and calls him a crazy bastard. This just makes Yeonho start complaining about how rude the world is these days. The audacity is completely off the charts. Since his sword is a no-go, Yeonho hops down and grabs the next best thing, a broom. He squares up, swinging it around like it's a legendary blade. Hyukil is absolutely livid and asks if he's being mocked. Yeonho, trolling him hard, just innocently asks why he's so angry and says, "Then just let me go get my sword!" Hyukil starts his big villain monologue, but Yeonho literally cuts him off with a massive yawn saying he's still sleepy. Finally pushed over the edge, Hyukil lunges. But Yeonho goes into full anime protagonist mode. Armed with a literal broom, he starts styling on Hyukil, moving so fast that he shatters his mask and sends his sword flying with a single clean hit. Hyukil hits the deck, and everyone watching can't believe their eyes. Yeonho just casually drops a one-liner about how trash is best cleaned with a broom. Before Hyukil can even get his bearings, Yeonho is on him, spamming attacks with the broom like he's bullying a low-level mob. Hyukil is freaking out, realizing this kid isn't just talk. Getting completely outclassed, he decides to play dirty and whips out a deadly poison, saying the strongest doesn't always win. Yeonho immediately calls him out for using cheat codes. Hyukil thinks he's won, but Yeonho explains that the poison won't work. Not because he's immune, but because he's just built different. He's faster. As Hyukil prepares to block, Yeonho reads him like a book, blitzing him with a lightning-fast combo. Hyukil gets completely overwhelmed by the precise strikes and is knocked out cold. Lights out. GG. With the fight over, Yeonho is literally stretching, not even breaking a sweat. Meanwhile, Mokpung is trembling, in utter disbelief that the head of his dark force got no diffed by a kid with a broom. But then, Mokpung starts clapping. He praises Yeonho's insane skill, especially for his age. Yeonho gets all shy, and when Eunji asks why he looks so pleased, he just says, "He's hyping me up, isn't he?" With his top assassin defeated, Mokpung switches tactics. He shoots his shot, offering Yeonho a job with unimaginable power and wealth. Unji screams from the back, thinking no honorable person would ever take such a deal. Yeonho puts on a cool face and says that anyone with sense and honor would obviously never fall for such a cheap trick, right? The statement is so slick it makes Unji blush. But then, in the very next breath, Yeonho hits them with the Uno reverse card and says, "But I will, so let's talk numbers." He's about to secure the bag and sell out completely, but just then, Unji screams at him, "Shout his name and telling him to die." Prince Lee storms up to Wi Yeonho, his voice dripping with anger. "What do you think you're doing? Are power and wealth really all that matter to you?" "Yep," Wi Yeonho says flatly. Nok Mokpung chimes in, "For real. They're essential." Unji adds, "More than essential." Prince Lee stammers, "Yeah, okay, they're important. But whatever he's offering, I'll double it. Power, wealth, I'm royalty. I can give you way more." Hearing this, Wi Yeonho's interest is finally piqued. But Nok Mokpung scoffs. "What do you think this guy can do for you?" "Sure, he's the emperor's brother, but he walked away from all that. The best he can do is get you some lame, low-level office job." He puffs out his chest. "My father's different. He can give you the kind of power and wealth that'll make everyone green with envy." Wi Yeonho glances at Prince Lee and shrugs. Gotta say, his offer sounds better. Prince Lee can only grind his teeth in frustration. Just then, Hwan shouts at Wi Yeonho, "How can you even compare siding with a traitor to stopping actual treason? Did your master teach you nothing about morals?" "My master?" Wi Yeonho repeats slowly. "Yeah, your master," Hwan presses, yelling now. "What did he say? What did he tell you to do in a situation like this?" He thinks to himself, he's always talking about his master, so his words must be like law to him. He wouldn't have taught him wrong. He must have said something that'll help our cause. Hearing Hwan, Wi Yeonho closes his eyes, pretending to think hard. A flicker of hope crosses Hwan's face. "Ah, I remember now," Wi Yeonho says, a light bulb going off. He said, "I should always side with whoever gives me the better deal." That single sentence shatters the last bit of hope Prince Lee and Hwan had. They're completely floored. Wi Yeonho continues, "My master always said things like, morality and virtue sound nice, but they don't fill your stomach. He said, don't try to be a good guy. The real path is to grab as much as you can get." Hwan grits his teeth, thinking, what kind of screwed-up master teaches that? Nok Mokpung loves what he's hearing. He's right! What's the point of all that ethics nonsense? My father values people who are loyal to him. So, will you work for my father? The word work hits Wi Yeonho like a ton of bricks. Wait, I have to work? No! Unji suddenly shouts, making her own offer. No work! I guarantee you a lifetime of royal feasts and total relaxation. Wi Yeonho's head whips towards Unji. A lifetime guarantee, you say? Seeing he's losing ground, Nok Mokpung quickly backpedals. My bad. I'm an idiot. If you don't want to work, no big deal. You'll still get a reward. A huge grin spreads across Wi Yeonho's face. He gives Nok Mokpung a friendly nudge with his elbow. You're a real class act, you know that. Nok Mokpung beams, pleased with the compliment. As their new friendship blossoms, Prince Lee, Hwan, and Unji look like their brains are about to short-circuit. So, Wi Yeonho says to the big guy, what do I have to do? Nok Mokpung looks a bit surprised, then lets out a crazy laugh. First things first, kill everyone in front of you. They're all traitors. Wiping them out is a worthy reward in itself. Wi Yeonho turns to the captured prisoners. You hear what he's saying. What nonsense is this? Unji yells in perfect English. So why did you rebel? Wi Yeonho asks her. We never rebelled, she fires back. This is all his setup and you're actually falling for it. But they found a collective oath from the academy, Wi Yeonho points out, still playing along. Seeing even Wi Yeonho doubting them, Unji screams in frustration. Ugh, you moron! Wi Yeonho scratches his head and turns back to Nok Mok Pung. Still, killing people feels kinda wrong. I've never even killed a guy before. Just stand aside, Nok Mok Pung says dismissively. I'll handle it. He holds out his hand. Bring me my sword. A masked man hands him a blade. I don't usually like to get my hands dirty, Nok Mok Pung says, admiring the weapon. But when it comes to enforcing the law of the land, there should be zero hesitation. Stop this right now, Juan bellows. You also learned of loyalty and righteousness. Father! Unji screams, shutting her eyes tight. Facing his final moments, Juan clenches his jaw and closes his eyes. Forgive me, Unji, he thinks. Nok Mok Pung brings the sword down, but just as it's about to connect, it stops dead. Wi Yeonho is holding the blade between two fingers. Okay, that's enough. Knock it off. Nok Mok Pung is stunned. How does this kid have so much strength? Did you forget everything we just talked about? Yeonho let go his sword. Nope, didn't forget a thing. But this is as far as I go with you. He puts his hands behind his head casually. You know the most important thing for living a lazy life? Never do anything that'll give you a headache later. He recalls a memory. Once, I broke my father's favorite inkstone while he was away. He didn't come back for 3 days, and those 3 days were pure torture. When he returned, he beat me black and blue. But after that, I could finally relax. Prince Lee mutters, Damn. Why didn't he just beat you to death right then and there? Unji nods in agreement. Hey, Halim go champion, Mok Pung yells, confused. Why are you suddenly spouting so much crap? My master also said I should never forget my hatred, Yeonho continues. But he said to remember what people have done for me even more than that. A man who doesn't repay his debts will one day be forced to pay back much more. It's better to pay it off before the interest balloons by 10 or 20 times. And from where I'm standing, now's the perfect time to repay this favor. Prince Lee, Juan, and Unji are shocked by his sudden change of heart. Mok Pung gets it now. I see. So all that big talk was just a front to stop me. He starts laughing like a monster, a deep, guttural sound. Then he stops, his tone dead serious. Did you really think I was bribing you because I was scared of you? Nah, didn't really get that vibe, Yeonho admits. Good. You understood correctly, Mok Pung says, raising a hand. Now watch. If I wanted to, killing you would be nothing. He unleashes his power, forming a massive golden hand of energy. He clenches it into a fist. It will be an honor for you to die by my hand. So, Mok Pung knows martial arts too, Prince Lee says, horrified by the display of power. With a roar, Mok Pung slams the golden hand down towards Yeonho. It dissolves into a swarm of smaller, monster-like fists, all hurtling towards their target. Yeonho casually tosses aside the cleaning broom he was holding. Let me give you some advice, Mok Pung sneers. In your next life, try being a little less lazy. As the fists close in, Yeonho doesn't even flinch. The others are convinced it's game over for him. Some even cover their eyes. Weird, Yeonho says to himself, looking at the approaching fists. I've seen this somewhere before. He's definitely strong, Mok Pung thinks. That's why I used my ultimate technique from the get-go. But he's not even moving. But then he sees it. Yeonho isn't just standing there. He's effortlessly dodging the golden fists, weaving between them as he walks forward. He's so casual about it that he even takes a moment to make sure his hair doesn't get messed up. He blocks one fist with a simple flick of his hand. Seeing his ultimate technique failing so spectacularly, Mok Pung grinds his teeth. How? In the blink of an eye, Yeonho is standing right behind him. Is that it? Mok Pung's blood runs cold. He can't process how Yeonho moved so fast. No. But how did you... You saw the whole thing. Why are you asking? Yeonho says, winding up a kick. Anyway, Before Mokpung can say another word, a powerful kick smashes into his face, sending the big man spinning through the air before crashing to the ground. "I'll only need one hit," Yeonho states calmly. Everyone is completely stunned by his power. Yeonho begins untying the prisoners. As he gets to Prince Lee, the prince asks, "Is he dead?" "Nah, I went easy on him," Yeonho replies. "Plus, he's got a lot of padding. I'm sure he'll be fine." We see Mokpung looking wrecked from that single kick. Yeonho strolls up to him, cracking his knuckles. "So, shall we pick up where we left off?" Fear flashes in Mokpung's eyes. "Wait!" he yelps, looking around and trying to hide his face. "Why don't we just pretend this never happened?" Yeonho, Prince Lee, Eunji, and Hwan are all in shock. Forget what he did? Is he kidding me? "That is absolutely unacceptable!" Prince Lee roars. "Seize him at once!" "Please, let's just handle this between us," Mokpung begs. Prince Lee spreads his arms wide. "Have you ever heard of an inspector general letting a traitor walk free?" "If I don't return," Mokpung warns, his tone shifting, "my father will assume the plan failed. He'll take his final gambit. Whatever the outcome, your imperial family will suffer a massive blow." "You're quite a piece of work," Prince Lee says, thinking to himself, so if we let him go, the imperial family avoids a bloodbath. Even if I try to stop him, considering Nokgi's armies, it will inevitably turn into chaos. And knowing Nok, he'll just get even more reckless. Prince Lee thinks he'll resort to even dirtier tricks. He then asks Mokpung, "So you're telling me to just turn a blind eye while this traitor walks freely around the court?" "That's politics," Mokpung replies coolly. "Just think of it as you've found Dongchong's weakness and bought yourself some peace for a while." Dongchong is the secret intelligence service of the eunuchs. "I've heard that eunuchs are like rats," Prince Lee says. "They always have 10 escape routes planned." With a heavy heart, he concedes, "Get out of here." Mokpung begins to walk away. "Hey, let me give you a piece of advice," Yeonho calls out. "Your flowing grace martial art is top-notch for real. But when you mix it with that bone-shrinking technique, you're seriously nerfing its effectiveness. If you ever actually want to fight me for real, you'd be smart to ditch the transformation. We're told that transformation is a martial art that can change one's external appearance." As he leaves, Mokpung calls back, "I'll keep that in mind for next time." "Honestly, I'd rather there not be a next time," Yeonho mutters. "Oh, there will be," the big man retorts before disappearing. Yeonho just shrugs. "Whatever, dude." By the time the whole mess is sorted out, the sun is rising. "Finally, that's over." He turns to Eunji and the others. "All right, I'm going to bed. The rest is your problem." "You're going to sleep again?" Eunji yells, totally fed up. "Hey, I was guaranteed full room and board," Yeonho reminds her. "You wouldn't dare go back on your word, would you?" Eunji can only grind her teeth in frustration. "Don't wake me up," Yeonho says as he dashes off to his room. "For real, I'm sleeping until tomorrow. Don't you dare mess with my sleep." Eunji fumes, but Hwan and Prince Lee seem to accept it. After that whole fiasco, Yeonho's days were pure bliss. He slept like a log while Prince Lee and Hwan were busy with the cleanup. Not his problem. For Yeonho, every day meant delicious food brought straight to his room and no one nagging him about sleeping. It was basically heaven on earth. Then, after many peaceful days, Eunji enters his room. "Get up," she says to the sleeping Yeonho. He doesn't move. She gets angrier. "Don't play dead. I know you're not actually asleep." Yeonho groggily sits up. "What is it?" "My father wants to see you," Eunji says. "What happened to my guarantee of a full day's rest?" Yeonho complains. "Trust me, I'm not interested in seeing your face either," she snaps. "Go ask him yourself why he called you. You're gonna refuse after lying in bed for 7 straight days?" "Can't I just say I'll meet him later?" Yeonho asks. That's the last straw for her. Eunji yanks his blanket off, pulls him out of bed, and slams him on the floor. "Get up now." In the next scene, we see them both outside Hwan's room. Eunji asks her father for permission to enter. "Come in," Hwan's voice says. She enters. Good work, Hwan tells Unji. You can go now. She and Yeonho both greet him, and Wi Yeonho immediately turns to leave with her. Not you, Prince Lee shouts. Yeonho turns to Unji. He's telling you to stay. You idiot, she hisses. He means you. Prince Lee looks like he's about to have an aneurysm. After Unji leaves, Yeonho sits at the table with the other two. Sir, please tell me what you wanted to say, Hwan says to Prince Lee. Prince Lee lets out a deep sigh. He pulls something wrapped in cloth from his robes, his hands trembling as he holds it. Finally, steeling himself, he places it on the table in front of Yeonho. Without a moment's hesitation, Yeonho snatches the object and tucks it into his own clothes. Do you have any idea what that is? Prince Lee asks, stunned. Nope, Yeonho replies. Then why did you accept it without asking a single question? Yeonho grins. Looked pretty valuable. My master told me if something looks like it's worth money, accept it without a second thought. Prince Lee slaps a hand to his forehead in despair. What you took is a sword. Don't you dare ask for it back now, Yeonho says. Don't be so cheap. No, that sword is... Yeonho cuts him off. Don't act like a child. You gave it to me. Why are you trying to take it back? No, what I'm trying to say is that... Too late, Yeonho interrupts again. I already licked it. It's mine now. Prince Lee's mind just breaks. He slams his fist on the table and yells, Let me finish a sentence, you demon child! That sword is a sacred treasure of the Royal Inspectorate. Wherever you go, if you show that sword, people will treat you with the same authority as me. Hearing this, Yeonho pulls the sword out and examines it. What? Is there a problem with it? Prince Lee asks, watching him stare. That's it? Yeonho says, unimpressed. Prince Lee is confused. Yeonho clarifies, I mean, there's no practical benefit. Like, I can't buy food or a house with this. What are you talking about? Prince Lee sputters. Why are you acting so crazy? Yeonho asks. You can't seriously think what I did that day was only worth the price of this sword. You know how the world works, give and take. People these days need something realistic, something they can use in real life to buy stuff. This is just weird, he mutters. Guess I can't be direct. So you want me to forget the Inspectorate's treasured sword and just give you cash? Prince Lee asks incredulously. Exactly, Yeonho says. I like that idea, but I couldn't say it myself. I have some manners, you know. Prince Lee's anger boils over. He grabs the nearest object on the table and hurls it directly at Yeonho. Yeonho catches it effortlessly. Wait, is this for me too? This looks valuable as well. Seeing the object in Yeonho's hand, Hwan gasps. Hey! That's my favorite inkstone. Prince Lee calms himself down and tries again. I repeat, that sword is a sacred treasure of the Inspectorate. You will be honored wherever you go, just as I am. In other words, this is like giving you an official government position equal to the Inspector General. So, more work for me, Yeonho concludes. I said it's a government position, Prince Lee insists. Isn't that the same thing? Absolutely not! How so? Just accept that it's different, Prince Lee yells. Fine, Yeonho sighs dramatically. Out of respect for my elders, I'll overlook it. The comment just makes Prince Lee angrier. Hwan interjects, speaking to Yeonho. For a long time, the Inspectorate has sent secret inspectors to the Central Plains. This position has been vacant for some time. I want you to accept it. Yeonho looks at the sword. Just with this? Yes, Prince Lee shouts. With this government position, you won't have to work. It's a reward. I'll sell my own house if I need to give you more rewards, you cheapskate turtle. While they argue, Hwan quietly tries to retrieve his inkstone from in front of Yeonho. Well, that's a relief, Yeonho says. I thought it was going to be a hassle. A hassle? Prince Lee questions. No, nothing. Prince Lee glares at him, his expression turning furious. You were going to sell it, weren't you? Weren't you? He then demands. What is your clan? And who is your master? Can't say, Yeonho replies flatly. At the same time, Yuan successfully snatches his inkstone back and hides it in his robes. Any longer, and Yeonho would have claimed that too. You won't tell me because you don't trust me? Prince Lee asks, offended. Yeonho nods. Yes. You know my rank, and yet you don't trust me? You're hiding your identity, Prince Lee fumes. It's not about hiding my identity, Yeonho says, his tone suddenly serious. Prince Lee doesn't understand. Yeonho's voice becomes calm and cold. The issue is that I don't trust people who hide their martial arts and pretend to be something they're not. The words hit Prince Lee like a physical blow. Yeonho presses on. How many seconds would it have taken you to defeat Mokpung? 5? 3? With his secret exposed, Prince Lee is in complete shock. Did you really think, Yeonho says, his voice laced with anger, that you could use me like a pawn on a chessboard? He unleashes a fraction of his aura. I can't stand dancing on someone else's board. Prince Lee is silent for a moment, then asks, You knew I practiced martial arts? It felt off from the very beginning, Yeonho explains. No matter how crazy people are about Go, traveling 1,000 miles for a single match never made sense. Yet, so many people gathered here, all claiming they just wanted to play Go. A plan was probably already in motion, and I just happened to walk right into the middle of it. That's when Mokpung showed up, and all hell broke loose. In that moment, I had to decide which side to take. Wasn't it obvious you should have sided with us? Prince Lee asks. Honestly, Mokpung's story had a higher chance of being true, Yeonho explains. Even if the collective oath book was a fake, someone with your status, Prince Lee, was secretly gathering the most influential people around. It would be tough for anyone to believe that was all just friendly networking. It points to only one thing. No matter how you slice it, it looks like treason. Even Hwan is taken aback by this reasoning. Prince Lee presses further. If you knew all that, why did you help us? Because that girl called out to me, Yeonho says. If I hadn't been caught, I was genuinely just going to bolt. But that girl? She seemed to have absolutely no clue what was going on. Because of her, I couldn't just run away. My master used to say that ideals are important, and so is the world. But if you can't see the pain of the person standing right in front of you, then all of that is worthless. After hearing this, Prince Lee connects the dots. So that's why you acted like a fool on the outside while you were secretly plotting your next move, trying to read my reactions to figure out my plan. Because I was pissed off, Yeonho says bluntly. Let me ask you straight up, are you plotting treason? And what if I said yes? Prince Lee challenges. What would you do? Then I could finally get a good night's sleep, Yeonho replies. Do you have no loyalty to the royal family? Prince Lee asks, bewildered. Yeonho scoffs. The king never gave me anything, so why should I? If I had to do something, I'd root for you, Your Highness. He looks Prince Lee dead in the eyes. At least you gave me gold. Prince Lee stares back while Hwan silently listens to their exchange, a thoughtful expression on his face. Suddenly, Prince Lee bursts out laughing. I knew you were clever, but I see now you've completely exceeded my expectations. He turns serious again. And you're right. However, I swear on my life, we are not plotting treason. We were only gathering strength to stand against Nokgi. The problem is that Nokgi has figured this out. Do you know why he sent Mokpung? He wanted me to kill him. Yeonho is shocked. His goal wasn't to capture me. It was to have his own adopted son die by my hand. If that had happened, Nokgi would have used it as an excuse to reveal that I'd been hiding my martial arts and gathering allies. Then you jumped in. He bows his head slightly. Forgive me if I've offended you. What you said about being used like a pawn on a Go board, that was never my intention. At that moment, both myself and the agents present were completely trapped. I understand, Yeonho says. Please trust me. I said I get it. So, Prince Lee asks, will you accept the position of Royal Secret Inspector? Let me be clear, Yeonho states. I will never go out looking for trouble. I don't care, Prince Lee replies. Because even if you don't want it, the world won't leave you alone. Yeonho makes a face. Don't want it. Destiny isn't something you can just pass on to someone else, Prince Lee says. If that's the case, I'm leaving now, Yeonho says, turning to go. Go ahead, Prince Lee calls after him. I'm also leaving today. I sincerely hope we never meet again, Yeonho says over his shoulder. For some reason, Prince Lee replies with a small smile. I feel like we'll be seeing each other again very soon. Yeonho's expression sours as he walks away. Once Yeonho is gone, Hwan asks Prince Lee, "What is your assessment of him?" Prince Lee thinks for a moment. He's more than I ever expected. I anticipated his martial arts would be formidable, but I never imagined he was such a master of deduction that he could see right through me. I thought I had found a divine dragon, but it seems I've brought in a monster instead. If I'm not careful, I could be the one who gets devoured. He's worth the risk, Hwan says. Perhaps, if it were only a matter of his martial skill, Prince Lee muses as he departs. But his cunning is beyond the norm. He understood the entire situation, yet didn't make a move until the very end. He isn't just strong, he's dangerously smart. Who in the world raised such a monster? Well, investigate everything about that man. Even if you can't find his dead master, you must find out which family he belongs to. Understood? That night, Yeonho is lying on the roof of a house, staring at the moon. Hwan appears beside him. Are you leaving? Hwan asks. Yeonho sits up, smiling. I wasn't planning on leaving without saying goodbye to the man who gave me food and shelter. Even if not right now, you'll be leaving soon, won't you? Yeah, Yeonho confirms. Besides, I've seen and learned a lot while I was here. Tell me, what did you learn? Hwan asks. If I had to mention the two most important things, Yeonho begins, one is that even people who read books can't live their lives like a story. Hwan nods in agreement. Is that this place, the Rulin, is far scarier than I ever imagined. Scarier? Because I never thought he would be in the Rulin, the strongest master I've seen in Murim so far. Indeed, Yuhwan says. Prince Lee's martial arts are truly incredible. Yeonho gives a simple smile. Do you really need to keep up the act? Yuhwan unleashes his own aura. So, you knew. Yeah, from the start. This is a bit problematic, Yuhwan says. Do me a favor. Don't sweat it. I won't tell anyone, Yeonho replies, understanding immediately. I wish to continue living as a scholar. In return, just tell me one thing, Yeonho says. Ask. My master told me to go to the Rulin and see the world. I thought I would find justice and righteousness here, but what I saw was the world's darkest side. Yuan closes his eyes. Everyone reads the scriptures and holds ideals in their hearts. But everyone's ideals are different, and when those ideals clash, people begin to understand that to realize their own, they must first overcome reality. Everyone knows the world's knots must be untangled, but untying them takes a very long time, with no guarantee of success. Eventually, those who grow impatient look for a way to cut the knot. That is the true nature of the cunning and dirty schemes you mentioned. Things like sacrificing one's own life or sending an adopted son to his death. Is the whole world like this? Yeonho asks. The imperial palace is even worse, Yuhwan says. There, the fight for power is constant. But other places aren't much different. Yeonho looks up at the sky. I have no idea what my master wanted to show me in this world. I don't know what he wanted me to see and feel. The world moves too fast for a lazy person. It's hard for someone like me to see, feel, and understand it all. So, isn't that fine? Yuan asks. Yeonho looks confused. Yuan explains, if the world is fast, you can simply adapt to it slowly. A diligent person can see and learn many things, but a lazy person might see things with even greater clarity. What's the point if you decide beforehand what you will see and feel? Walk at your own pace and see the world with your own eyes. If you do that, the world will show you the path you're meant to take. See the world as it is. As I am, Yeonho repeats. He sits down and begins to meditate. feel it as it is. As he achieves this understanding, a pink energy begins to circulate where his heart is, and a powerful aura emanates from him. Seeing him in meditation, Yuhuan stands guard to ensure no one disturbs him. A short while later, Yeonho opens his eyes, which now hold a new, distinct glint. Do you feel you've understood something? Yuhuan asks. Yeonho scratches his head. To be honest, I'm not really sure. Yuhuan laughs. That's more than enough. This is something to be understood with the heart. He turns to leave. I hope that one day you will surely find your answer. After Yuhuan is gone, Yeonho lies back down on the roof. He feels the energy in his chest. I think I'm feeling something, he says to himself. Is the inner core my master gave me finally showing some effect? He gazes at the moon, and for a moment, he sees an image of his master asking, Have you achieved enlightenment? Yeonho closes his eyes. I'm not sure yet, master, he murmurs, and falls asleep on the roof. The scene jumps to Yeonho sleeping soundly in a wagon. He has become consignment goods, though the reason for this will be explained later. For now, the story shifts back to Rulin. Yuhuan stands over a sleeping Yeonho. Didn't you say you were leaving? Stirring awake, Yeonho sits up and scratches his head. Yeah, I did say that, didn't I? Yeonho's eyes flutter open, but then it reminds Yuhuan, it's already been 2 weeks since you first said that. Yeonho sits up, sheepishly admitting he might be a little late. As Yuhuan looks on, the scene shifts. So, what exactly are we supposed to be hauling? Eunji points her finger directly at Yeonho, identifying him as the thing they need to transport. Surprised, Yeonho points to himself. Wait, I'm the cargo? One of the escorts observes that he looks like a person, but Eunji clarifies. Judging by his behavior, he's basically just cargo. She tells the escort that since the wagon already carries animals, it's not much different. Just put Yeonho on top, feed him 3 times a day, and he won't cause trouble. She then offers to pay double the normal rate for transporting a person. Gapbi Hong starts to refuse, but Eunji quickly raises the offer to triple as Yeonho tries to speak up. Not missing a beat, Eunji interrupts by shouting, "Quadruple!" and shaking on the deal. Gapbi Hong happily agrees, leaving Yeonho completely shocked. No way! Yeonho protests. You can't just load me up like I'm luggage. Eunji sarcastically confirms his fears. What's happening? Eunji tells him. We need to get rid of this parasite, and fast. Yeonho becomes overly dramatic, shouting about the fallen morality of the martial world and how he's being sold like cargo after saving them. Yuhuan tries to reason with Eunji, suggesting they let Yeonho do as he pleases to repay the favor. Taking advantage of the opening, Yeonho declares, Fine, I'll stay until next year. Putting an end to the discussion. Eunji tells him this is to help him, but he yells back, How could this possibly be helpful? She calmly asks if he was heading to the Jiangsu region in Hubei. Since he's going there anyway, he might as well go with the Hubei convoy to avoid walking. Yeonho concedes the point. Eunji lays out her flawless logic. He gets a free ride, the convoy earns money, and she gets rid of him. It's a win-win-win for everyone. Finding her argument infuriatingly convincing, Yeonho is left speechless. Stop complaining and go with them, Yuhuan tells him. Yeonho makes one last protest. My mom told me not to follow strangers. Yuhuan assures him they are trustworthy, but Yeonho still seems hesitant. He finally agrees to go, though he didn't expect to leave so suddenly. Sitting atop the cargo cart, he is seen off by Yuhuan and Eunji, who tell him to take care. Yeonho turns to Eunji, remarking, You seem way too happy about this. Smiling, she asks, Is it that obvious? To which he can only respond with a frustrated sigh. Yeonho tells the escorts, Let's go, and the cart begins to move. He promptly lies down on the crates to relax for the journey. As the convoy departs, Yuhuan and Eunji watch them leave. Eunji cheerfully waves goodbye, yelling for him to stay healthy. From the cart, he grumbles that they shouldn't have kicked him out in the first place. Eunji's voice seems to echo in his mind, telling him to fix his laziness, to which he tiredly agrees. As the cart pulls away, he gives a lazy wave. With the convoy gone, Yuhuan tells Eunji it's time to head inside. She watches with a smile as the convoy disappears, thinking to herself, "Goodbye, you weird, lazy bum." The scene shifts to the convoy of the Swift Dragon Escort Bureau. The chief, Gok Bihang, looks back at the wagon with a weary expression, questioning the parcel they just picked up. He complains to his subordinate, "Are you kidding me? Transporting a person requires way more preparation." The escort explains they wanted to refuse but couldn't exactly turn down a request from the venerable Yuan Manor. Gok Bihyang sighs, then asks how long Yeonho has been sleeping. The subordinate replies that he's been out cold since they left the manor. Gok Bihyang looks down at the peacefully sleeping Yeonho and remarks, "In a way, it's impressive he's not bothered at all." One of the escorts reminds him that the manor said if they just give Yeonho 3 meals a day, he won't cause any trouble. Still unconvinced, Gok Bihyang tries to get his attention. After ignoring the first call, the chief bangs on a crate and yells his name again. Yeonho finally cracks open his eyes. "What do you want?" Gok Bihyang introduces himself as the convoy chief. Yeonho simply replies with a lazy, "Hey." Gok Bihyang explains that the trip will be inconvenient since it's meant for moving cargo. "No sweat," Yeonho casually replies. "I'm registered as cargo, not a person." Gok Bihyang insists it will still be tough, but Yeonho just shrugs. "I can handle it. All I have to do is lie still." Yeonho claps his hands together once. "All right, let's get a move on. Please take care of me." 5 days later, Yeonho is seen stretching and screaming, "This is getting on my nerves. When I'm awake, all I want to do is sleep. But when I do sleep, that scummy master of mine shows up in my dreams to torment me." In his dream, a spectral version of his master criticizes his swordsmanship and yells at him to swing faster, all part of his dream training art. Back in the present, Yeonho wonders how long this will go on. He quickly gives up, decides he doesn't care, and goes right back to sleep. Suddenly, Gok Bihyang shouts for the convoy to halt. A sense of unease fills the air. He calls out into the quiet woods, "Who goes there?" This is Gok Bihyang of the Swift Dragon Escort Bureau, requesting an audience. The noise rouses Yeonho, who tiredly wonders, "Great, are we getting hit by bandits now?" When no one responds, Gok Bihyang grows wary, concluding their opponents are not rookies. He shouts his identity again, demanding that whoever is hiding come out. A rustling sound comes from the bushes. A man in red with a massive blade on his back emerges. The escorts immediately draw their swords. With a confident smirk, the man introduces himself. "I am Peng Do-guk of the Hubei Peng clan." Gok Bihyang identifies himself in turn and asks, "What business does a descendant of the great Peng clan have with us?" Peng Do-guk explains that he is being chased and can't shake his pursuers alone, pleading for their help. Lying on the cart, Yeonho's eyes narrow slightly. He thinks to himself, "Oh, it's this clown. The same guy who treated us like trash at the gate." A brief flashback shows a tense, unpleasant encounter with Peng Do-guk. The narration explains that at the time, Yeonho didn't realize the significance of their meeting. Now, lying on the cart, he calmly observes the imposing figure, completely unaware of the massive headache this moment is about to become. The men of the Hubei Pang clan are known for having more muscle than brains, but also an unmatched sense of chivalry. Seeing Peng Do-guk standing before him, he figures the man's request must be serious. "What can we do for you?" he asks. "There are people pursuing me," Peng Do-guk explains. "If you just let me hide with you until we're off this mountain, I will make sure to repay you properly." "Okay, I'll help," Gok Bihyang replies immediately. "Quickly, hide inside that empty barrel." As Peng Do-guk gets in, a sly smile crosses his face, thinking his plan worked. The commotion wakes Wi Yeonho, who was sleeping soundly on the cart. "You must make absolutely no sound," Gok Bihyang warns Peng Do-guk, placing the lid on the barrel. What a meddlesome person. Still, I can't say I dislike that about him. From inside the barrel, Peng Do-guk says, "If I cause you any danger, I apologize. I will ensure everyone is properly repaid." "What good is repayment if we're all dead?" Wi Yeonho retorts from the top of the cart. Do you have no conscience? You're putting all these people at risk. Someone with even a shred of decency would have just looked the other way. Well, that's enough. I'm going back to sleep. As the convoy nears the bottom of the mountain pass, Gok Bi Hyang starts to think they might have slipped by unnoticed. Suddenly, a man in green robes appears, yelling, "Stop!" The cart comes to a halt as they are surrounded by green forest bandits. Their squad leader puts a blade to Gok Bi Hyang's throat. "Green forest?" Gok Bi Hyang stammers, then quickly bows. "I am Gok Bi Hyang of the Swift Dragon Escort Bureau. It is an honor to meet you." "Have you seen a young man in red clothing?" the squad leader demands. "Red clothing?" Gok Bi Hyang replies smoothly. "No, we haven't seen anyone like that." The squad leader's eyes narrow. "If you lie, misfortune will follow." "I don't understand what you mean," Gok Bi Hyang continues. "The Swift Dragon Escort Bureau has maintained good relations with Green Forest for years. Why would we hide someone and create an enemy of you?" The bandit's eyes fall on Wi Yeonho. "Who is that?" Gok Bi Hyang leans in and whispers, "A precious charge. We're escorting someone whose body is weak and mind unsteady to the righteous hall. You needn't concern yourself with him. He hopes the lie is convincing." "Indeed, there's no reason for you to make an enemy of us," the squad leader says. "But the problem has already arisen. Because of that person up there." He glares at Wi Yeonho. "I clearly asked if you saw someone in red clothing, didn't I?" Wi Yeonho, now awake, casually takes off his outer robe, revealing the distinct red accents on his clothing underneath. "I did not see anyone in red," he says with a straight face. The squad leader presses his blade harder against Gok Bi Hyang's throat. "Are you trying to pull some kind of prank?" he hisses, confirming Gok Bi Hyang's fear. They already knew Peng Do-gyuk was hiding with them. "All right," the leader announces to his men. "Let's start by killing one of them. By killing them one by one, we'll see if anyone is truly innocent. I wager before the third one is dead, someone will claim they saw him." He points to a terrified escort. "You, have you seen the young man in red clothing?" The man stammers, I haven't." "Then it seems death will answer for you," the leader says, swinging his sword. Just as the blade falls, Gok Bi Hyang grabs the leader's arm, stopping the blow. "Damn it, he's here!" As the bandits surround the cart, Wi Yeonho sits up. "The one you are looking for, Peng Do-gyuk," he says, looking down at them. "You're caught now." "What are you doing?" Gok Bi Hyang exclaims. "Enough," Wi Yeonho tells him. "There is nothing more foolish than risking your life for someone else." He then yells at the barrel, "What are you doing, you fool? Do you intend to wait until everyone here is dead before stepping out?" After a moment, the lid opens and Peng Do-gyuk emerges. "Foolishly, you crawled forward," the bandit leader scoffs. "If you had fled, you might have had a chance?" "If I had done that, everyone here would already be dead," Peng Do-gyuk replies. He turns to Gok Bi Hyang. "Thank you for your help, but now I must handle this myself. Their target is me, so the Swift Dragon Escort Bureau should be safe." "But you—" "I will be fine," Peng Do-gyuk assures him. As Gok Bi Hyang and his men prepare to leave, Wi Yeonho calls out, "Wait a moment." "We can't go yet." "Why?" "What do you mean?" Gok Bi Hyang asks. "Escort leader, why are you so oblivious?" Wi Yeonho says coolly. "Think about it. Even the Green Forest wouldn't want to recklessly mess with the Hubei Peng clan. If we survive and word gets out that a Peng clan member was killed by their hands, what do you think will happen? The entire Hubei Peng clan would take up their swords and scour these mountains. They would rather kill all of us here to eliminate witnesses than go through that." The Green Forest squad leader's face tightens, realizing the truth in his words. "You're right," he concedes. "I hadn't even considered that," Gok Bi Hyang admits. "Oh, you didn't think of that?" Wi Yeonho asks with a smug look. "You crazy bastard!" Gok Bi Hyang yells. Peng Do-gyuk steps forward. "I'll fix what I started." "This is my fault, and I will resolve it. I'll hold them off." What a ridiculous man, Wi Yeonho thinks to himself. He sneaks into our mission, causes this mess, and now he's acting like he's going to solve it. He's like a drowning ghost, dragging others down with him. And what good is running away anyway? They already know this is the Swift Dragon Escort Bureau. The Bureau will be in ruins before the news even reaches the Peng clan. Then what should we do? Gok Bi-hyung asks, defeated. We must fight, Wi Yeonho says simply. If we run, the rest of the escort members will have to fight alone. But if we fight now, we have that drowning ghost with us. He'll be of some help. With no other choice, the battle begins. The squad leader orders his men to attack. Peng Do-guk clashes with him, sparks flying from their blades. He grits his teeth, filled with regret. From the time I was praised as a rising star, a carelessness I didn't know I had was quietly settling in my heart. It was like a poison. Because of me? Everyone here? This is the end, you bastard! Swinging his sword for a final blow. Everyone? I'm sorry, Peng Do-guk thinks, bracing for the impact. Suddenly, a flash of blue energy shoots past him, deflecting the killing blow. The squad leader grunts as his attack is blocked, the force sending him flying backwards. Peng Do-guk stands panting, looking on in shock. From atop the cart, Wi Yeonho watches the scene unfold, a blue aura beginning to emanate from his hands. How ridiculous, he says. In the midst of a fierce battle, Peng Do-guk and a Green Forest bandit both in shock as another bandit is suddenly knocked unconscious. Breathing heavily, Peng Do-guk stares at the scene, his eyes widening as he spots a small, blue, glowing bowl on the ground next to the fallen enemy. The thing that knocked him out? Was that bowl? From atop a nearby cart, Yeonho casually holds another bowl and chides him, "You're getting distracted again." Forced to refocus, Peng Do-guk is immediately swarmed by several Green Forest members, struggling to parry their coordinated strikes. Meanwhile, Yeonho continues to sit lazily, juggling two bowls as he looks down at the chaos. You brought all these enemies over, and now you're going to die without pulling your weight, he says with a sigh. Geez, you're going to get yourself killed at this rate. Peng Do-guk, in his own fight, shares the sentiment. What the hell is he doing up there? He thinks, quickly getting surrounded again. Damn it, I need to get it together. This isn't the time to be curious. His eyes glow with a fierce red light. What I can do right now. He unleashes a powerful attack, 5 Tigers Gate-destroying blade. A massive spectral tiger appears behind him as he roars, fight as many as I can. His technique sends a wave of energy that cuts through the bandits, but he finds himself surrounded again. Right, this isn't a duel. There's no way to block everything. As 3 bandits leap at him from above, he thinks, uh-oh, I'm gonna die. But before the blades can land, the attackers are blasted away by a surge of blue energy. Just die already, man, Yeonho yawns from his perch. Come down and help me, Gok Bi-hyung screams. Huh? I'm an item to be transported, remember? Yeonho replies nonchalantly. What the hell is he on about? Peng Do-guk thinks. Yes, but this isn't the time for that, Gok Bi-hyung shouts. Some mean girl told me that if something happened, I should stay up here instead of causing more trouble, Yeonho explains. She said she'd chase me to the ends of the earth to harass me. I'll take responsibility, so please just help me, Gok Bi-hyung pleads. I don't know. I tend to keep my promises, Yeonho says with a shrug. Don't you think you'll be uncomfortable on your journey if we all die? Gok Bi-hyung yells. I'm not really comfy right now either, Yeonho replies lazily. Right. If things go well, let's rest for 2 days at an inn in the next town, Gok Bi-hyung offers desperately. 2 days? Yeonho asks, his interest piqued. You can eat all you want too, Gok Bi-hyung adds. I even get food. Yes, so please help me, you donkey. Gok Bi-hyung screams as he struggles. What the hell is this conversation? Peng Do-guk thinks, watching the exchange. You promise? Yeonho asks. Yes, Gok Bi-hyung confirms. With the deal struck, Yeonho finally springs into action. He unleashes a flurry of glowing bowls from his cart, each one striking a green forest member with incredible force. The battlefield is cleared in seconds. Peng Do-guk looks on, stunned. What? The leader of the bandits stares at Yeonho in horror. He's a martial master, he exclaims, realizing the truth. Yeonho lands gracefully on the ground and addresses Peng Do-guk. Hey. Yes? Peng Do-guk asks, still wary. You brought those guys here? Yeonho states flatly. Shouldn't you be trying your best if you have any sense of guilt? You get into trouble, drag us into it, and you're not even doing your share. I'd get it if you were trying your best, but you got distracted and almost got killed. What the hell's wrong with you? If you have a head, then think. Look here, he says, pointing. You use a blade. Strong, heavy, but slow. What are you going to do fighting multiple people with a slow sword? Is this a suicide mission? No, Peng Do-guk stammers. Then wait for your turn, or just go for one guy at a time. Yes, sir, Peng Do-guk replies, standing at attention. Same with that move from earlier. Why would you waste that on air? Give me, Yeonho demands, snatching the sword from Peng Do-guk's hand before he can even react. In a swift, powerful motion, Yeonho swings the sword, unleashing a wave of blue energy that carves through the ground and sends the remaining bandits flying. What you did? That was the Five Tigers' gate-destroying blade, Peng Do-guk exclaims in disbelief. How does he know it? Did he copy it just from watching me? Yeonho turns to him and continues his lecture. If you're going to fight multiple people, you should at least try to swing it faster. Just because there's less power in the blade doesn't mean the opponent won't die, right? We're right. There are times to sacrifice strength for speed, and times to be slower for more strength, Yeonho explains. Why is that so hard to understand? He scolds, pointing a finger in his face. I'm sorry, Peng Do-guk replies, confused as to why he is apologizing. Then do better, Yeonho says, handing the sword back. The remaining Green Forest members tremble in fear. Peng Do-guk takes a deep breath. Okay, I'll focus on speed and precision. Here I go. He turns to face the enemies, but they have already fled. We'll come for you later, one of them shouts as they disappear. Peng Do-guk is left standing alone, bewildered. Huh? This is so frustrating. Thanks for everything, Gok Bi-hyang says to Yeonho. No need. We're getting paid after all. It was an easy gig thanks to you, Gok Bi-hyang replies, bowing respectfully. We'll never forget you saving our lives. Just verbal gratitude? Yeonho quips. After a moment of silence, he adds, I'm just kidding. I'll take whatever I can get from that Pang clan bastard. He gestures to Peng Do-guk. But why were you so cold to him? Gok Bi-hyang asks. You would have died if I wasn't here, Yeonho says, lounging on a barrel. The others too, just because of that one guy. That's true, Gok Bi-hyang admits. However, it looked like he had his reasons. It seemed like he was doing something good. Something good? Yeonho asks, his expression turning serious. Does that justify nearly getting everyone killed? My master said there is nothing more stupid than risking your life for something that isn't your problem. He told me to prioritize myself. I know people value justice, but if people must be sacrificed for it, I'm better off not having it. I need to be happy before others can be. Meaning, my priority is me. He looks at Gok Bi-hyang. Didn't you suffer enough damage to be worrying about that guy anyway? Gok Bi-hyang laughs. Well, both the goods and the men of the Swift Dragon Escort Bureau are safe. The Venerate Heaven Orthodox Murim Alliance is supposed to take care of the Green Forest anyway, Yeonho says. That's good to hear, Gok Bi-hyang replies. I hope I'll get to see you again. Probably not, Yeonho says bluntly, turning to walk away. Goodbye. Gok Bi-hyang watches him go and sighs. It would be so nice if he were a bit more disciplined. Meanwhile, Yeonho arrives at a large, impressive building. Finally, I'm here, he says to himself, standing before the gate of the Nature's Hand Manor. Meanwhile, back at the Guangdong Wi clan. We didn't find him this time either, said Yeonho mother. I'm sure he's alive somewhere, Wi Jung-han replies, a worried expression on his face. Where are you, Yeonho? Suddenly, Jo Bong, the administrator, bursts into the room. Patriarch! Patriarch, there's a message. What is it? Wi Yeonho asks. Young Master Yeonho. He sent a letter, Jo Bong exclaims. Junghan's eyes widen in shock and relief. He shouts, Yeonho, you forget to click the bell on 0 manhwa channels.